What is for you culture of solidarity in these times and how we can produce it? The starting point for answering this question from my personal stance would be to re-examine and acknowledge my privileged position, an employed actress in a state theater which is almost fully financed by the Ministry of Culture, more precisely by the government, legacy from socialist era, who is also a member of a union defined and protected by law. I'm not saying that we have flawless worker-employer government relations or that the basic working conditions for cultural workers have been fulfilled, but we have strong bargaining position and a good basis upon which we can continue to work on strengthening workers' rights. On the other hand, cultural workers in our country, especially in the performing arts sector, are not recognized by the law as such at all. They are generally not unionized, which has sustained the spread of precarious employment established and encouraged by neoliberalism that results in insecurity and poses new challenges to the already difficult task of unionization and collective bargaining. This indecisiveness of our authorities and their constant altering between socialist and neoliberal logic of management in culture sends us as cultural workers a message that the only way to survive in the independent scene is to be already employed in a state cultural institution. So on the local level, I suppose that the first step to put solidarity in practice would be to fight shoulder to shoulder for better working conditions for all. On a larger scale, it is obvious that the corona crisis is not only medical, logistical, economic challenge, it is also a cultural challenge because it changed our way of life. How we're going to solve this problem will have profound implications on how we are going to build our future. We need to decide how to handle this crisis through cooperation and burden sharing or through competition and blaming each other. So will we care only for our people and give the old ideals, the ideals of solidarity, fascistic and nationalistic tone, or we're just going to go and call our friends and co-workers and colleagues all across Europe, and together we are going to think of new ways to organize our activities and our ongoing projects. Maybe digital, maybe in a new format, maybe postpone them for later, but it is crucial to continue working across borders for now and for the future. And on the global scale, the greatest challenge would be a solidarity that is aware of our overall relations, both with other people and with nature. What knowledge we produce in culture and art now, how we should produce and distribute the knowledge. The first response from almost every cultural institution in the world was to open their archives on different platforms online and to provide access for everyone to their concerts, performances, virtual museums, virtual tour through museums, etc. But at the same time, almost unanimously, we all agreed that these online streams can never be a long-term solution or a substitute for performing live, since performative arts are a medium of presence. But in the same manner, we can all agree that being able to see all the content we previously never had an opportunity to see is one of the greatest benefits of this crisis, if we can put a benefit and crisis in the same sentence. So maybe in relation to that, this is where the key to our future activities lies, to build responses based on open and shared knowledge, enabling faster circulation and iteration of emerging research and greater integration of multiple data sources. The emergence of COVID-19 and its subsequent spread across the world illustrates the truly interconnected nature of our current society. And as such, where there is a systemic challenge, the response must also derive from collective efforts. What we learned from the crisis, can we develop different post-crisis modes and conditions of art and cultural production, which will allow basic sustainability and reduce the precarious position of cultural workers and artists. So it has already become a mantra that we should not simply revert to the old normal when this crisis is over, because the world was already in crisis. But let's not read this urgency as a sign to make hasty decisions. I'm no expert in this, but during this period at home, I've been following some activities that the International Network for Contemporary Performing Arts had concerning sustainable and unsustainable practices, and it made a lot of sense for me. This IETM, which is a network of over 450 performing arts organizations and individual members, working in the contemporary performing arts worldwide, theater, dance, circus, performance, interdisciplinary, live art forms, new media, etc., prepared a series of blog posts rewiring the network for the 20s, where they introduced and re-examined 5 promises and pressures of international networking. By revisiting their own 40-year-old history. So with different surveys across membership and online brainstorming sessions, they first tried to define the sustainable and unsustainable practices in the performing arts through concerning artistic value, social value, economic value, and ecological value as a very hot category right now, and propose new solutions on the future based on their findings. So for me, this makes a lot of sense because it comes in a way bottom up. It is based on shared knowledge and on the experiences of the sole performers and on different experiences all over the world. It is not only limited on European practices, but it compares what sustainable and unsustainable means in different societies. Maybe these post-crisis models of art and cultural productions should be based on nothing less than such extensive, inclusive, and thorough research. Does COVID-19 crisis bring forward the idea of social equality, social states, and maybe universal basic income? How that can be reflected in culture and art and arts? We all witnessed how societies led by profit-oriented culture put artists and other cultural workers without permanent position, including curators, critics, mediators, educators, and technicians among those who have been hit the hardest by this crisis. Theater projects, concerts, exhibitions, commissions, and assignments have been postponed or cancelled. And although authorities around the world have introduced various forms of urgent support schemes to keep cultural institutions afloat and to compensate artists and cultural workers for a loss of income, once you start contacting your colleagues abroad or start digging on the internet, you will see that all these measures are very limited in different ways, and you will understand that they do not help everyone who needs them. I'm not sure if I have ever heard any more serious debate about universal basic income in our country, but I'm going to take the example closest to us, the Slovenian government. So the Slovenian government introduced measures to help the self-employed, including cultural workers, with which they will cover all their social contributions and pay them a basic income of 350 euros for March and 700 euros for April in case of loss of income. But some cultural workers criticized these measures because of the administrative obstacles they came upon to prove the loss of income compared to other months and on yearly level. Also, this measure was criticized by well-known UBI advocates who think that these are short-term measures, unsustainable in the long run, and that it should be broader social paradigm and a way in which society should be organized to be resistant to crises and shocks. Although many countries are actually competing to be the first and best in introducing the most optimal UBI solution, they also conclude that it is clear that bigger systemic changes would be necessary before these solutions can be successfully applied. Meanwhile, what this crisis made us all sure of is that no one should be left without any income ever. So these systemic changes can't come soon enough. What political and policy approaches you would foresee for future in the field of your work, and how it should be changed in the future? What theater or contemporary performing arts have learned from these times, and what political and policy approaches should be developed for its changes, or how theater should change in future? As for us, I hope that we will not take our privileges for granted and relax in our comfortable positions, but instead we will immediately start pushing the authorities to present a plan on how we are going to proceed in the next few months. Of course, we should take a proactive role in all this decision making by giving our insight and ideas. And under any circumstances, do not let the Ministry of Culture make these plans in our absence. In the past few years, our authorities constantly flirted with the idea of shifting to profit-oriented model of financing cultural institutions and culture in general. And I really hope that the examples from all across Europe on how this crisis hit the cultural workers working in precarious positions hard will repel them from taking a step in that direction. Instead, I hope for more humane policies for all our colleagues, employed and unemployed, and for those who choose to work in the independent scene as independent artists. While fighting for better working conditions, we can take time to rethink theater and to prove how necessary we are as thinkers, as creatives, as artists in contemplating this new world, new better world, and how to stop the machine of the climate crisis.